So, Mark, did you see those 3D printed vintage Las Vegas signs that Vegas 360 put up on X? Apparently, the person who makes it for them doesn't even have a shop, doesn't do it professionally, just does it for fun. They got some serious skills.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff there, a lot of throwbacks and everything. Some signs I didn't get to see in person because it was before my time, but so cool and just shows the history of Vegas. We talk about the Boneyard all the time and going out there and seeing some of these signs all lit up, which is so cool. But yeah, we need to get back to that type of Vegas, old signage, lights, blinking, all that stuff.
And if this viewer listens or watches MTM Vegas, we love vintage signs, but I wish they would open up a shop. I would buy some because these are incredible quality. There are some other people who make them out there on Etsy and stuff, but I've never seen anything as good as this.
Yeah, and as wide of a scope as this. Like you might see a certain era or something like that, but they basically covered every sign that you could want, which is pretty cool to see.
So, Mark, how do we end this segment in a funny way?
We should have started with the Pahrump stock.
So Oyo is not really always in the news, but you just love Oyo, and people get a kick out of the fact that you go, oh, Oyo, and you have such a deep relationship. And they released a video of their painted pool area looking fresh and nice. And it's just a reminder, that's actually a very nice pool. You wouldn't expect it. Lots of murals out there. So people should check it out.
Yeah, it's a cool pool area. It's one of the few that was open 24/7 back when it was Hooters. I don't know if that's still the case now. But I always thought that was cool that even in the winter you could go swimming. All that stuff. They used to have like a tiki bar out there. I see that that's missing. Kind of sad. We've talked about how they took away the center bar. They take away the tiki bar. Quit taking away our bars. Keep the fun going. But no, it looks really nice and underrated pool area. They got the bungalow rooms right out there. So it's a cool, if you're like in your early 20s and you just want a crash pad, you really can't do better. The location, all that stuff is great.
And we promise Oyo hasn't paid us anything for all of this talk, but with Tropicana going away, Oyo has to step it up on that corner. They're going to represent the entire corner of Trop and Las Vegas Boulevard. So got to give them some love. And like we said, we want the new Hooters next door. Let's bring it back.
Yes, Hooters. Why did you leave us? I'm so sad about it. It was such a fun atmosphere. Oyo's still really fun, but Hooters, nothing will top Hooters.
Speaking of Hooters, okay, let's talk Pahrump and Viva Las Value. Sergio, he brought us some new content to talk about. He's great at doing that. So he went out to Death Valley. He was visiting with his mom and decided to stay in Pahrump on his way back instead of staying in Vegas. I guess to save a few dollars, to see the casinos out there. He stayed at the Saddle West. I once stayed at the Saddle West. I used to do business out in Pahrump, and they had these rooms with these like hot tubs in the middle of them. Very old school, very interesting clientele out there. And it seems like he had a blast.
The couple next to me is having coitus. And they're like, that's not a couple, man. It's Pahrump. That's definitely paid for play.
Yeah, Pahrump is interesting. He went to Terrible's Roadhouse, which is, another interesting one. Had some country fried steak that looked nice and Pahrump greasy. And we're making fun of Pahrump. I have friends who lived out there. A lot of people who used to live in Vegas moved out there. It's grown a lot. So it's not quite the place that everybody thinks it is, the country style place, but still a lot of interesting people and times out there. And I don't know if I would stay out there. I don't know if that's a budget sort of place to go, but, stop by and see if you're going to Death Valley, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it makes sense if you're going out to Death Valley and you want to stay the night, don't want to drive all the way back to Vegas, and that sun beating on you definitely will make you tired. I still think they should move all of the brothels and everything to Prim, so we can call it Prim for Trim. I think that would be a great t-shirt. It would bring back the city, make it happen. It's too perfect not to.
There you go. Legislators, lawmakers, make it happen. On another note, Atomic Golf at Strat, it finally opened. And there's a lot of videos that came out, and this is a top golf competitor, very kind of similar sort of place. Interesting views as you hit the ball right into the sunset, the lighting, the packages. I mean, they really spent a lot of money on this place, and it looks great.
Yeah, I think it looks really cool. I mean, inside looks kind of like a sports book that you'd see in a casino. Open air atrium type of thing with TV screens all the way up and down, similar to what we're seeing in the newer sports books. So I think they did that really well. And they're trying to draw people in that aren't maybe interested in doing the golf section. There's other things for you, the craft beer bar and everything. And I think somebody said the beer start at $7. So you're getting kind of like your on strip technically, but not on strip prices, which is cool. Not too far from Slots of Fun. So you can make a night of it and head down there after or before. I definitely want to check it out. I think it's a cool place to hang out, even if I'm not going to do the golf golf aspect of it. But I mean, the one lady that was hitting them in high heels and like mid thigh boots with heels, that was kind of crazy. I don't know.
One interesting thing is they have free parking, which the Strat does not have. So you can park there for free. And the prices go from about $40 to $80 an hour for a bay. And you can have up to 8 people according to their website. So not too expensive. Obviously, during the day, midweek, it's going to be the cheaper prices. At night on the weekends, the most expensive. But, not out of the realm of possibility, especially with 8 people. Even $80, that's $10 an hour each person. So not bad. And that includes your clubs as well.
Yeah, that gives you everything that you need, all the balls, the clubs, everything. You just rotate through people. I mean, it's a fun game if you're not a golfer and you're not very good at golf. Sometimes people that are bad at golf end up winning it because they hit little worm burners down that roll into the right spots and everything. So I think everybody has a good time there. They open for March Madness, which is cool with all the TVs and everything. Another place for you to go watch the game a bit. So I'll definitely will check it out my next trip.
And this is really at the beginning of the Arts District, so a different kind of vibe and area from Top Golf. And we really hope this place does well. It seems like they launched this really well, spent some money, made it a great attraction for that north area of the Strip. If you consider that the Strip, we won't get into that debate today, but go check it out. So let's talk food a little bit. We like to do these food roundups every once in a while. We kind of save social media posts and kind of lump them together. And sometimes we find crazy food items, starting with this one, the Volcano Combo Pizza, which is pizza, pasta, and calzone all in one at a Mano. This is on North Tenaya Way. You don't like it? It looks interesting, but I agree. I wouldn't order it.
Pizza's great. You don't need to mess with it. Like, we don't need this. Nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. It reminds me of those things you see on Facebook where people just make the like most grotesque thing they can to get engagement. I don't know. No, passed. Okay, next one.
Apparently that place has good reviews. So like maybe they built this thing just to sort of get attention and then you go there for the real food. I don't know. But if you're interested in those monstrosities, check it out. The next one, Abel's Bagels, which is Las Vegas. Phil says is his favorite bagel in Las Vegas. I'm obsessed with bagels, so I'll have to go check it out. I haven't tried it, but these bagels do look very good.
They look amazing. Bagels, big, fluffy, everything you want in a bagel. So we'll have to see how it ranks to your favorite bagel mania and compare them.
For the record, Bagel Cafe is my favorite, but I kind of out on the ledge with that one. A lot of the local food people don't agree with that, but there are more and more great bagels in Las Vegas compared to like even a decade ago, which is awesome to see. So Panino on Decatur for your Italian sandwiches. This comes from Sam and Ash, Ash the attorney. They have a radio show here, podcast, stuff like that. And she says this Italian sandwich is worth it. It looks delicious.
Yeah, it looks fully packed with everything and, good proportion. The amount of stuff you get in the middle compared to bread, I think it all kind of works well, and hopefully it tastes as good as it looks.
Yeah, I'm always up for a good Italian sandwich, especially one that's more authentic compared to, some of those subs that you get at the chains. And Tiki Bar coming to downtown Las Vegas. This isn't food related. We don't have that yet, but the old Nacho Daddy space in downtown, Nacho Daddy moved next door and they vacated the space. And apparently a new Tiki Bar is going in there, and it's called Glitter Gulch, a throwback to the old strip club that was on Fremont Street.
Yeah, what a great name. Can they they got to have a great sign with that name and the throwback. You got to have a great sign, hopefully. I love tiki bars. We've talked about that many times. And I think Vegas is a little bit underserved in the tiki bar area. There's a couple out there that we've talked about in the past that are really great, but it's hard to get into them at times. So I'm glad to see a new one come, and out in Fremont, I think is the perfect spot for it. And I think they said in the tweets I saw that the guy was planning on opening up a couple more around Vegas, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it and cover it when it does open, but looking good so far. As a reminder, our Patreon is going. We do a weekly after show. $5 a month gets you access. 20 plus minutes of Mark and I making fun of each other, talking Vegas, all kinds of great stuff behind the scenes of the channel. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas if you're interested. Thanks to everybody who supports us over there. So we talked on the last show about Suncoast and all of the renovations they're doing in the casino there. And Boyd Gaming also released this week that they're renovating the rooms at the Gold Coast. This makes a lot of sense. Palms was fully renovated a few years ago. We've talked at length about Rio and their renovations. And Gold Coast has smaller rooms, and that's a bit of a obstacle for them to overcome. I'm not going to say I love the look of these rooms, but they're fairly modern and, as one person put it, chic-ish.
I don't know if I'd call it chic-ish. I mean, chic on the cheap, maybe. They look fine, kind of what you would expect for that market, and like a newer Holiday Inn, which isn't a knock. I like newer Holiday Inns. It's kind of like that same vibe, a 2.5, 3-star type hotel. I mean, you can't go wrong. All that matters is if it's clean, really. So I think they, they needed the update and they're getting it, and they did well with the budget they had, I think.
Yeah, if you see the picture of that twin room, you see just how small they are. And with Rio's rooms being 550 square feet, so big, renovated, I think that would be my choice. So I don't know, but it's good to see them doing that. I found online that it's about a $5.4 million renovation, and they will be touching lightly some areas of the casino, but not a huge renovation in the casino, mostly just the hotel. But it's good to see that happening. And good to see happening too is more and more sports books. We've talked about all of these casinos announcing new sports books. It's interesting because sports books were always seen maybe as a loss leader. They weren't, generating huge revenues for the casino. And, Westgate had their Superbook, which was the first. Circa came in, and now we're seeing everybody going to the sports books as sports betting gets bigger than ever. And Circa Sports has been a brand where they are putting in these smaller sports books in some of the casinos, and they opened their Silverton branch. And this is a reminder that you don't have to have a giant sports book for it to be nice. It looks like they have bar top video poker, great screens there. This is an improvement top to bottom. Whether you have a huge sports book or a smaller space, it seems like sports books are the it item and better than ever.
Yeah, I wonder who paid for it too. Like, if since Circa's taking over, do they cover the cost of the refurbishment? I think that'd be a great reason to bring somebody in like that if they're going to come and fix up your space anyway and just take a cut of it. But it is surprising because they used to have the monopoly on sports betting, 10, 20 years ago, and now we see it in most states. So they weren't making money when they didn't have competition. Now they have competition, they're really pushing into it, but maybe they're looking at this as like the new buffet. We've seen buffets go away. Maybe this is drawing people in. If you have a good sports book, they draw them in for the game, and then when the game's done, you go out in the casino, you gamble a little bit, you eat there, all that type of stuff. So maybe that's where their focus is. But yeah, sports betting's bigger than ever, more mainstream than ever. So it is interesting to see them put some money back into it.
And 5 years ago, all the sports books you saw were William Hill, right? And Caesars buys them. Where did they all go? And it seems like Circa has taken a lot of that market with these smaller sports books around town. And a lot of the sports books in the casinos, as you said, they have restaurants in them. They're generating revenue in that way. And I guess they're successful. We don't always know the numbers, but they're all investing in them. Local casinos, strip casinos, everybody. It's the sports boom in Las Vegas, which we'll talk about more in a minute. This is the future, and it's looking better than ever. Big screens, good beer, good video poker. What more could you ask for?
No more tube TVs at the book and the little ones right at your little sitting area. But I do like that they're bringing in the tabletop games, so you have something to do. It's kind of dangerous though, because I like to do things like, that's why I like playing bar games and stuff when I'm watching a game, darts or whatever, just for something to keep me occupied during commercial breaks and all that type of thing. And this is a way for you to lose a lot more money quicker. The nice thing about sports betting was always you make one bet and you get like 3 hours out of it, where this could suck your money out a little bit quicker, but it does give you something to do, which I think is cool.
There's been a lot of discussion on social media this week with March Madness happening about problem gambling and sports betting and how it's become so prevalent with apps on your phone, how easy it is to do. So it's been interesting to see that go into the national conversation. As you said, sports betting, typically you could lose slower than other forms of betting, but now with all these crazy parlays and instant access on your phone, it seems like maybe that's not the case anymore, and there is a push for these gaming operators to be more responsible. So that was an interesting conversation that came out of March Madness this week.
I think that and Otani's translator, wink, wink, hint, hint, kind of pushed it into the forefront. But it is true, like with the apps and stuff, you have live betting, which gives you, if you're a seasoned gambler, I think it gives you a little bit of an edge. But it also means that, if you're losing in a game, you can just press and double down during the game versus waiting the whole time until the end and all that kind of stuff. So it does open you up to more potential downside. So it's something to be aware of for sure.
And those parlays, the more complicated they get, the lower your chances of winning. Those are really kind of throwing money away statistically compared to just betting on games. So yeah, it's interesting to see how all of that has changed. Which brings me to the 2023 Las Vegas Visitor Study. Every year the LVCVA does this. They interview a select group of people who came to Las Vegas. They do it every month, and they kind of compile the statistics and give sort of a profile of who's coming to Las Vegas, why they're coming. They did about 300 monthly in-person interviews and 150 online interviews for a total of 5,411 interviewees. And let's go through some of this stuff, specifically with the experience, right? Let's start with that. Everybody seems to complain about Las Vegas lately, how expensive it is, specifically the people who have been visiting for a long time. We hear it a lot in the comments on our channel, but it seems like people are happy with 87% of visitors to Las Vegas in 2023 saying they were very satisfied with their visit.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that it was that high just because of what we see, but maybe we're in a vacuum. And I would have loved to see this broken out a little bit more, like first-time visitors versus routine visitors, that type of thing, so we get a better idea of where that falls. But overall, 87% is too high for it not to be a combination of both. So it's interesting to see, because we do hear about pricing and all that stuff, and it's just not the value that it used to be. But I think that they're offering a lot more than they used to 10, 15 years ago in terms of entertainment, shows, all that type of stuff. The dining, scene is completely different than it used to be. So I think people want the old ways, but they also like the new way. So it's interesting.
And it's good for Las Vegas that 87% of people are leaving very satisfied. So it's good for the future of the city. So who visits Las Vegas? This is interesting as well. Visitors are more likely to be married, employed, and older, which is 40 plus. Male versus female, 51% male, 49% female. So there's not a demographic skew towards male too much. 64% married, 84% employed. So 16%, I guess, don't have jobs now, some students and others. And 56% of visitors are college graduates with higher incomes. And that isn't a surprise given the price of everything these days.
Yeah, and I think we saw, the younger crowd came in right after the pandemic. This was kind of a party atmosphere, especially for people that could drive there easily from Arizona and California and stuff like that. And we're seeing it get back more towards the norm of, the ages pushing up a little bit into the 40s versus what we saw during that thing. So I think that was kind of like a blip in Vegas history that we might not see again as far as the way that skewed. But yeah, the really interesting thing I thought was the retirees we've seen since 2018, 2019 at like 22%, which makes sense. A lot of people still like to go gamble and fly, and they saved up their money. They worked hard their whole life. And this is kind of like their once or twice a year thing that they go to. And we've seen it steadily decline down towards 10%. Each year it keeps dropping and dropping below 10%. Which I thought was kind of interesting. It's not like there's less retirees out there, not a ton less at least. And maybe they're going more to the local casinos now or other options, or maybe that's who Vegas priced out as the people with the fixed income and they can't, make it up on, the next paycheck type of thing.
They're all in Laughlin, Mark, right in your river.
Yes.
They're at the beach, your favorite place. We know where Mark's going to be when he retires, over in Laughlin. So sports, everything is sports these days in Las Vegas, but only 6% of visitors attended a sporting event in 2023. Now but that's definitely up from about 2% in 2018. So keeps going up every single year. We expect it to continue to be the case as destination sports tourism sort of takes off and matures here. But only 6%, so, that's not as huge as I would have thought.
No, and the price was kind of high, too. I think they spent close to $300 on the sporting event, and I'm sure that includes drinks and food and everything else. But that's kind of pricey if you're just going to one event, like a hockey game or a basketball game, something like that, or these tournaments that they have there all the time. It is on the higher end, so I'm sure that, keeps some people away from experiencing it.
So to downtown, our beloved Fremont Street, downtown Las Vegas, 54% of visitors to Las Vegas make a trip to downtown Las Vegas, which is impressive, I think, given the number of people that come. And that's up from 42%, I think, in 2018, 46% in 2019. So more and more people are heading downtown, despite, all of the sort of issues they've had with safety. We know they've doubled down on police and making it safer, and maybe that's a reflection that people are comfortable going down there now.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot less of that in the last 6 months or so, a lot less stories of the violence and everything. And maybe that's part of the skewing where it's starting to get to the older crowd again, less of the young and piss and vinegar type of people hanging out down there. And is this like the Circa effect drawing people to Fremont? I don't know. We've seen kind of a revitalization from the early 2010s to now, where it just became like more and more popular throughout, where it was kind of a dead, wasteland in the early 2000s. Just nobody really wanted to go down there. They thought it was dirty. There was nothing to really check out. And now we've seen that it's kind of like a place to go to. And I think that helps the arts district out as well. It's right there. It gets people moving up that way, so it's cool to see.
All right, there's so much to cover in this. We can't cover it all. We'll put a link to all of it in the description, but we do want to talk gaming really quick. 79% of the visitors gambled during their stay. That was only 75% last year, so more and more people gambling. And the overall budget, $787.54 for gambling, and that is up significantly. In 2018, it was only $527.05. So people are bringing more money to gamble and gambling more than they have before.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed that really blew my mind. There's two things that blew my mind. One, they thought the prices were like out of this world in 2018 as far as thinking they were getting value. Skewed worse than it does now, which is crazy because everything's way more expensive, but maybe that's just all relativity to everything else we see. And the other thing was over 50% of people that go to Vegas are paying the full freight, these crazy $500 a night hotel rooms. Over half the people actually pay that, which blows my mind.
Yeah, they account for comps who's there for free, and yeah, over half are paying full price, which is so interesting. Now that has a lot to do conventions, international travelers. There's a lot of people who repeat visit, and they often get offers, things like that. But also, you look at the generational spend, not a surprise, Gen Z spending less on gambling, then millennials, then Gen X, and then of course boomers spending the most. That just kind of goes with net worth and how much money each generation has. But overall, it seems like good news for Las Vegas, top to bottom. Everybody is coming, they're spending more money, and they're leaving satisfied. That's the overall take I get from all of this data.
Yeah, I agree. It was surprising to see, but across the board, I think it was all positives for Vegas. And I really expected people to complain about the price of everything just because what we see so much, and that didn't seem to be the case, so much so that it was more noticeable in 2018.
One last thing about traveling with kids. We've talked about how is Vegas a good family travel destination. Of course, we had the 90s where they built all of those attractions. Circa is still trying hard. Excalibur, there's still places for kids. And there's a lot of cool things outdoors, things around town for kids to do. 16% of 2023 visitors visited with children. And that is down from a couple of years ago where it was 21% as we kind of exited COVID. But before the pandemic, you were talking about 6 and 5%. So it's up still. People are bringing their families here more than they were before the pandemic.
What percent of them end up on Fremont after midnight?
Yeah, we need that question on the survey, LVCVA. Please give us that question. We want to know, is it safe to bring your kids on Fremont after midnight? No, it's not safe to bring your kids. Well, maybe it's safe or maybe it's not safe, but it's probably not a smart idea. But, smart and Vegas aren't always things that go together. So, it could happen. But let us know what you guys think about everything we talked about. Like I said, so much data. There's a lot more than even we covered on this show. We tried to cover some of the highlights, but I highly suggest diving in deep into this data. So let us know what you think about that. Gold Coast new rooms. Would you go stay in Pahrump to save a few bucks? Hit us up in the comments. We do 2 shows a week. Tuesdays and Fridays. We'll be back in a couple of days with another show. Go Aces. Thanks for watching.
Have a good week, everybody.